World-famous politician and civil rights activist Nelson Mandela led South Africa as president from 1994 to 1999 while fighting against apartheid on the continent. The birthdate of Nelson Mandela is July 18, 1918. His instructor gave him an English name to make things simpler, even though his real first name was Ralilala. She gave him the name Nelson, and he never forgot it. Transkei, which was then a part of South Africa, was the place of his birth. Nelson's father, a Metso's chief, was a member of the Thimble royal line from birth. Nelson had greater access to schooling than many African black people at the time since he was born into a respectable household. He realized that black people weren't treated correctly at school, which led him to have a lot of questions. At the age of 9, his father passed away. Nelson's childhood was spent in a South Africa dominated by white people, who denied black people any real influence in laws, policies, and ways of living. Most black people were employed as servants and were destitute. The majority of those who labored were slaves to white owners, others toiled in industries, mines, and on farms. Nelson studied law, politics, anthropology, and English at Fort Hare College. As his first year at Fort Hare drew to a conclusion, he started participating in the Students' Representative Council. In 1939, he departed the institution due to disagreements with its administration. He was shocked to witness racial and ethnic groups living in harmony when he attended Communist Party events. Nelson returned home from Fort Hare shortly after finishing his studies to discover that an arranged marriage was waiting for him. He relocated to Johannesburg to further his education since he was against this. Nelson graduated from the University of Witwatersrand with a degree in law. Being the sole black student at that institution, he had to put up with a lot of prejudice. In 1944, Nelson joined the African National Congress, ANC, which held the view that Africans need to defend their political liberties and rights on their own. Nelson founded the first African American legal office, where clients sought counsel and assistance from him and his longtime friend Oliver Tambo. Nelson typically guided the crowd inside the ANC so they could speak up and get support. Seeing that they would need to turn to youth to combat black subjugation, the African National Congress, ANC, formed the African National Congress Youth League, ANCYL, with Nelson's assistance. By 1948, South Africa had implemented the apartheid system of racial segregation and oppression. Because of the racial segregation in public spaces, social gatherings, housing, and employment prospects, black people in South Africa had few rights while white people were free to live, work, and play anywhere they pleased. Nelson made a lot of conference trips and talked to a lot of people on the need for changes in South Africa and the social inequities caused by apartheid. He advocated for black people to be granted the same rights as white people and for protesters to address these issues in a non-violent manner, much like Mohandas Gandhi would have. Nelson was arrested in 1956 together with more than 100 other persons for the crime of treason, which is defined as betraying your nation by toppling the government. Following his release from jail in 1961, he started holding covert meetings with journalists and activists. The government and police were attempting to find him, so he had to accomplish this in secret. South Africa left the Commonwealth in 1961. The Commonwealth is a confederation of former British colonies. International support for apartheid led to a suspension of trade with South Africa. Even traveling and attending athletic activities has decreased. Nelson was apprehended on August 5, 1962, and accused with terrorism, labor strikes, and attempts to topple the government by sabotage. He received a life sentence in jail in 1964. That made him 46 years old. Nelson was apprehended when it was later disclosed that the CIA had notified South Africa of his whereabouts. Nelson Mandela was incarcerated for 27 years. Around that time, the anti-apartheid movement in Africa gained international attention and began to get assistance. Under intense pressure from millions of people worldwide, Nelson was freed from prison in 1990. After being freed, he persisted in opposing apartheid and was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. Nelson was elected as South Africa's president in 1994, the year that all races were granted the right to vote there. His term as president ended in 1999. He changed a number of things in South Africa so that everyone might be treated fairly. On December 5, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away from a lung ailment. He was the father of 6 kids. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more educational content.